And we're back. Please
Thank
continue.
Okay, so yeah, I was talking about the unions. My husband's part of the Teamsters. I was part of the Education Association. My grandpa was IBEW, so we're a big union family. I absolutely support the unions. IATSE, I was so happy to get that one. My sister actually worked for the Goodman Theater in Chicago way back when, so we're like
Oh,
theater people, and we really like to support the arts, and I'm hoping to bring that support to the school district and to really encourage us to do more activities like circus arts. They've done studies and shown that it really helps kids learn to social emotionally regulate their feelings, that balance work and those activities. So um,
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Could you go a little bit more into that, Eileen, of bringing those other unions in to support your efforts? Because that's really fascinating and interesting. I mean, you're also supported by the culinary union, which is so big here. And yeah, they've obviously they've made a very big impact. I would say, especially with respect to legislation and policy. I hear about the culinary union quite a bit here in Las Vegas, and they're very supportive, I think, of the arts because they are their own art, the culinary arts, which we don't oftentimes think of that in that way, but they very much are. And so, I'd love to hear a little bit more of that. That sounds really fascinating.
I think one of the things that we're looking at right now in a lot of the schools is the programs aren't there. They don't have the staffing for music programs. They don't have the staffing to come in and they're not going to be able to do gymnastics and gym class because they need to have staff there to help spot and things like that. I would really like to work with the nonprofit community. And I know that typically the circus arts are something that they might come in and do a workshop. So why don't you tell me more about what that would look like as far as how we incorporate those at a district at this level? What do you need from a school board to get those things to happen?
Well, that's an interesting conversation, Eileen. I mean, I've seen it done in a few different ways in other spaces. I've seen the school bring in and partner with different organizations, obviously, or with different circus schools. I was having a conversation actually recently with the Nevada Arts Council, and we were discussing the possibility or potential of circus industry workers coming in and using their specialty to teach, teach physics, use juggling to teach math, in creative ways, in that way as well. So, also to having those after school programs where the children maybe don't learn on site, but they go to a circus center like the Las Vegas Circus Center. I know that they have an outreach after school program to a certain degree. I'm not sure how extensive it is, and how many districts it serves, but they also have an agreement with them in that way too. So I think a combination of the school board infusing obviously the amount of funds that it takes to hire the professionals to come in and to help adequately shape that program, which is very key and very important. And then obviously making sure that it's regulated properly, and that we have the proper folks in there that are paying attention, and know what they're doing and are taking care of the children, in the ways that they should be, which, again, sometimes nuance gets a little bit lost when we do these different types of arts programs. And I think it's very important to remember that they need to be heavily regulated, if they're going to be in these schools. But I also think too that, trying to get an actual just ongoing program in a class, that is consistently there. I mean, obviously, it can be integrated within, physical education. That I think that's also, again, a very big one where, it's maybe not something that they do every single day, but it's incorporated into the system. But it's there. It's more than something that they get an experience of where someone comes in once a year or they come in, once every few months, where it's something that's consistent, that they feel like they're actually learning through it, they're growing through it, and then they have access to it that can help them and sustain it to go to a higher learning program eventually, within their lives, and that it's equitable and that it's accessible and that, it's obviously affordable. And again, that's one of the things as well about the circus arts where, it can be still quite elitist in that way where it's not as accessible. And so, the school working with circus educators on a local level to see how you can make that equitable, and make that accessible to all of the children, I think would be a wonderful conversation. I've also seen as well that they are pursuing circus arts and education as prescriptions. So you basically are getting a prescription from your doctor to go and do the performing arts, or you're going to the performing arts as a prescription. So you're taking in a show. I mean, I think that's one of the other things as well. I'm not sure how many of the children get access to go to the circus shows here in town. Sometimes maybe not at all.
Yeah.
At all. And so that could even be something that always reminds me of the documentary. I'm not sure if you saw it, where they did a documentary of all the children that live around Disneyland in California, and that most of them will never and have never been to Disneyland, and and the tragedy associated around that. And I've oftentimes thought about that within Las Vegas. How many of the children here in the backyard of Cirque du Soleil or in the backyard of a circus show will never and have never seen a Cirque du Soleil show, and it's literally in their backyard. So I think finding different brainstorming and unique ways to work together and to come together would be a fantastic conversation to start, and then to see. I know usually the topic that comes up is funding. And so, what do you do in terms of impacting funding, Eileen, on your end that could support the creation of these types of programs?
The first thing that we so we do handle the budget, and I think that it really comes down to having more funding for our schools. That's something that we all need to get involved in. Everybody says, "Oh, we need to reevaluate how we're spending our money," but the fact is that we actually don't fund our schools well at all. And when we want to talk about bringing things like more arts in, that's an important piece. But that's also the importance of having an active community of artists, right, who are willing to talk about it and hold people accountable. I have a child who would not be at school if it weren't for marching band. He absolutely hates school. And so I understand, myself, and I taught special ed. And so, we work with kids. It is therapeutic. My aunt is a music therapist, and we know that arts, especially balance activities and things like that, it's vital. It improves their mental health. People go horseback riding to help with their mood issues. It helps people's anxiety. That movement back and forth and across your midline helps your brain work in a way that puts you in a better mental health state. And we are missing that in our kids. Like you said earlier, they don't go outside more. They aren't doing those things. And just having access to be able to see, I'm really good at doing cartwheels, and somebody's doing that for a job, right?
Yes.
Right? I worked really hard when I first started teaching. I created an arts program for my students at the elementary school, and I taught them everything from costuming and acting and directing to lighting, right? Because I wanted them to see school, this building, this place that you're contained in isn't your whole world. It doesn't have to be. And you can find other things to do in life that don't take place within a four-walled building. And so I would like to see more of an open look at schools and what we can do to, and see what that looks like. My middle kiddo did trampoline class with one of the circus trampolines for a while. Then he got older, and girls were more important. But we have there are so many cool things here because of our circus community, because of our arts community, that we just don't have anywhere else. And I think you're right. The start is getting kids involved and showing them, because I know plenty of kids who are great at gymnastics, but they don't know that there's a place right here in Las Vegas that you might be able to go audition for, and I think that that's part of what as a community we really need to do better at, especially in education. We focus very hard on academic performance. We focus really hard on whether we're going to get that test score, putting kids into college, when the fact of the matter is not everyone's going to go to college. It's not meant for everybody. We need other venues for folks to feel successful, like the culinary arts, like the performing arts. And this is a community and a space where we can really encourage those things. So I would really love to see more partnerships come along, in general, partnerships with nonprofits. But let's get Caesars to throw some money at free tickets for our students,
Yes, yes. But they should. I mean, it's like these could be your future, your future employees, and
Yes.
they should be. I mean, I would love to, even see a study over maybe the next like decade or so where they can show how many kids, that were actually born and raised, or not born and raised, but raised in Las Vegas, actually became employees of these big shows, as the capacities expand, because they should have just as much of a shot as someone like me did, who did not grow up here, who was not raised here, and has, had a very wonderful career in and out of being in Las Vegas, like so many of my friends have that are transplants to Vegas. But giving the kids that grew up here, the seat at the table, I think would just be fantastic. So let's speak more of those, more of those programs into being in partnerships where they are more involved in education and supporting where the system is broken and where the system doesn't have the support that it needs. And thank you as well for reminding, listeners, those with kids and without, to advocate and be involved and go and have those discussions now that you're someone that's open to having them, in the way that you said that they weren't necessarily available right now because someone's more importantly in Nebraska. So it's great to see, the different changes that you're going to be making, if you are elected, to this position of trustee within your school district, within District B, and the changes that can come from that, and things that you also think like, why hasn't someone done that before? And I mean, the arts and gymnastics changed my entire life. I was fortunate. It was very expensive. I got into it when I was a very little girl. I started off in ballet, but my parents, they did everything to keep us in sports and keep us in the arts. And just the lack of access that I see nowadays, with kids becoming so stifled by the academic expectations of them. And we all learn so differently. And, promoting the fact that all of our brains work so differently. And maybe doing the arts will help you excel more in the academics that you were, not doing so well. And I have seen different indicators work for different children in different ways. Getting into the arts help them to do better in school. Getting into the arts, I mean, all sorts of things, and just different ways that you could potentially flourish. And we're so multifaceted, and it starts when we're very young. And those things gave me the blueprint and the foundation for everything that I'm able to do now. And I've seen that work through the lives of so many people in my life. And we know that arts and education helps to create a foundation for kids and for children at any age that sets them up, to be more successful later on. So in
Yeah.
rounding out this podcast, Eileen, please share when the election is coming up. Again, reminding folks about your district, what it is, a little bit again about your position, and how they can be involved, where can they vote. We're, basically at this point in time getting the vote out. And also, too, is there any kind of cheat sheet that you recommend that folks can look at online where they can get information about how they could potentially vote? So that if they don't have a lot of time because they're raising families and they're working full time, maybe more than one job, like a lot of circus industry folks are very busy, and they're doing a lot. And so is there any ease of accessibility that you can offer on that end whatsoever? Thank you again.
Yeah. So all the news outlets do coverage of each race and who the candidates are. And when it gets down to school board, because we're considered a small race, even though we have to get a lot of people to vote for us, but we're way down at the end of the ballot. So when you get your paper ballots, it's one of the last pages for trustee. When you are going through the ballot on at the voting center, it's way at the bottom. So don't forget to read all the way through. My name is Edie. If you live north of Ann Road in the north part, you'll be able to vote for me. In District B, I always like to say Edie for education. But early voting starts on October 19th and goes until November 1st. And November 5th is our election day. So you can early vote anywhere in the county. And there are readily accessible locations everywhere. The other part, though, is the day of, you have to find a closest voting center. So not all of the early voting locations will be open. So pay attention to where those are. Usually, people who are telling you and reminding you to vote also text you a link that says find your nearest voting location, because everybody wants you to vote. So keep an eye out for those text messages. You'll probably get 6, right? So keep an eye out for those. And, I'm looking forward to helping our school district work with programs and help bring more arts programs and more diverse arts programs into our schools. We have art, we have theater. Let's bring in more things. Let's bring in more dance. Let's bring in more circus arts. Let's bring in more performance things, because those are what our kids need. That we know it improves critical thinking skills. We know, get them to jump on the trampoline. They do better on the test, if only because they can concentrate better. So we really, I really hope to work with you all and your community in the future. You can find me online at, my last name is Eady, EADY, for Nevada, not the number, the word, at fornevada.com, eadyfornevada.com. And District B is in the front. Keep an eye out on your ballot, because we have, you have school board races in Summerlin, in the east part of Las Vegas, and we have in Henderson. All have school board races up right now. So keep an eye out for those too.
Wow, that is so important. And thank you so much for that brilliant education, Eileen, for educating the Circuspreneur podcast on, what the options are, and also too on how important this role is. And with respect to circus arts education within the educational system. And I also just wanted to add a little bit, a little thing in there too, is eventually we are looking forward to the fact that circus arts will be represented in higher learning, so that you can get a degree, so you can learn the circus arts as a child, and then you can pursue that as a 3-year or 4-year degree in the hopefully near future, so that there is a through line there for your entire life and your entire career. So let's stay tuned for that. I really appreciate your time, Eileen. You're a fantastic candidate. Thank you so much for your support for the arts, and for the circus arts specifically. We don't always hear our industry spoken to enough, or quite often, even in a space like Las Vegas or in Nevada. So this is so incredibly important to have our industry be spoken to directly about the issues that matter to our industry, and school education very much does. So I so appreciate your time, and good luck on the race. And I hope that we find you in the position to support the circus arts in the ways that you are looking forward to supporting them.
I can't wait. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we'll close this episode of the Circuspreneur Podcast with, this podcast is also available on stagelink.com, STAGELYNC.com, the groundbreaking new platform for live performing arts that provides unmatched access and connection to this vibrant world of shows and entertainment. If you're a professional in the performing arts, visit stagelink.com/pro, STAGELYNCPRO. StageLink Pro offers industry professionals higher visibility, networking opportunities, and tools to support and enhance their careers. Until next time, everyone, I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto. This is the Circuspreneur Podcast. Please stay safe and stay healthy.